Today's project takes us into my woodworking shop, where I am making a table for my husband for his birthday. It will be an end table slash lampstand slash coffee table. Currently, we have been using a stool to hold the lamp, and he set a bucket between the chairs to place his coffee cup, and that doesn't fit my design taste. Plus, I'm tired of tripping over his shoes, so my table design will solve these problems. I shopped for end tables, but none of them worked because most of them are square and will not fit the narrow space we have to work with. I have rearranged my living room until I have found the perfect place for everything, maximizing the space. I even moved my front door to give us more space. The door used to be where the window is now. Because of the size and shape of our two chairs, the space between them is an odd shape, with only 8 inches between the closest place and up to 13 inches on the lower space, so a 4-legged table will not work. My table design will only have 2 legs. I want the maximum tabletop width to be 12 inches, and it must rest above the curve of the arms of the chairs. I decided to make the table out of oak wood for a hardwood that will be durable. The cost for my materials was around $120. The tables I shop for range between $200 to $300, so even using quality choice wood, I am still saving money. To my woodworking shop. After taking all the measurements of the space I had to work with, I drew up a sketch of my design idea and began measuring and cutting all my pieces. The underside of the skirt tabletop cannot be more than 8 inches. For the legs, I used 2.5-inch square posts. My plan is to not have any visible hardware such as nails or screws, so I'm cutting the posts to contour around the tabletop skirt and to fit the feet on the bottom of the legs. I used my table saw, adjusting the height of the blade to remove the sections of wood to fit my design. I always make my adjustments with the machine turned off. Once my height is correct, I turn on my table saw. With only 2 legs and a 12-inch wide top, the legs need feet. So I made those 12 inches long so the table will not be tipsy. I decided to angle the sides of the feet, keeping the center the full width of the legs. To help me cut the angles, I fashioned a temporary jig to help hold my foot in place while cutting the angles. To cut the opposite side, I moved my jig to the other side of the blade, which also means I needed to mark my lines on the bottom side of the feet as well. I drilled holes to place wood pegs to help join the feet to the legs. With all the pieces cut, I am almost ready to start the assembly process. There's just one more thing to prepare for the bar joining the 2 legs. I felt it was necessary to have the bar between the legs to make a square, giving the whole table a solid structure. To avoid using any screws or nails, I decided to do a mortise and tenon joint. I do not have the fancy tools, just your basic tools, so I had to use my small hand tools to do this part of the project. I carved the mortise or the slot that the tenon or the peg will fit into. When finished, it will look like a butt joint, but will be much stronger. It is always best to cut the mortise before cutting the tenon, and cut the tenon a little bit bigger than you think you might need to ensure a tight fit. Having good measurements is really important too. You can always shave the tenon down a bit. A tight fit ensures a strong bond. If I had a handsaw. I might have done a better job cutting the tenon, but I had to work with the tools I had available to get the job done. I used the table saw, and it's not as precise as I might have been with a handsaw. Sometimes nothing beats a hand tool for certain jobs. Here I am temporarily using a spike to hold the piece so I can drill the second hole for my pegs. I applied a generous amount of glue to surfaces that would be joined, then secured with wood pegs, trimmed off excess, and then sanded flush to create the feet of the legs. For the tabletop, I need all the edges to be rounded with no sharp corners so it doesn't damage the leather on my chairs, so the edges were rounded with a router. Sorry, I didn't get video of that process. I used butt joints for the tabletop skirt, but reinforced with wooden dowels. I found it easier to pre-drill the holes on two end pieces. Then I glued them together. After the glue dries, then I drilled into the joining pieces so that I could be sure the holes would line up properly. Keeping the clamp on, I drilled the holes partway and inserted the dowels with glue. Cut off the ends of the dowels, sanded flush. After the skirt frame was glued, then I covered the entire surface with glue to be glued on to the tabletop for a secure fit, and everything was measured and marked so I knew exactly where to put it so that it was centered. It is always a good idea to use clamps when gluing anything and give time to set before the next step. After the glue was well set, it was time for the hardware that would only be used underneath, where nobody would see it. I used 4 small L brackets and 3/4-inch screws to secure them. To attach the legs to the tabletop, I applied glue, clamped, and later added screws in the pre-drilled holes. The holes were only drilled into the leg portions. The table is assembled. Now for the finishing. I chose an espresso stain because my future plans for my living room will be in that same color. I wiped off excess stain and let dry. Well, here's my husband's lamp table, coffee table, end table, whatever you want to call it. I have it sitting out in the sun, so the sun will help to dry that last final coat of polyurethane on the top.
Yep, I know what this is. Oh, a table.
Yeah, it's a lampstand, place to put your coffee, end table. Custom made because we have a very unique, limited space. A 2-legged table. But I put wide feet on the bottom so it'll stand up. Let's take it inside and see how it works.
Yeah.
My custom table fits the space perfectly, and he loves it. It is a practical gift that solves the problem of where to set his coffee cup and to keep his shoes out of my way. He also has extra room for his basket that I made him previously. My intention for the basket was to hold his collection of remote controls, but he keeps other things in it as well. I hope you enjoyed the making of this project video. Please consider giving it a thumbs up, and don't forget to subscribe to see what I'll be making next week. I try to put out a video every week, Monday at 8 o'clock. Thanks for watching.